This show was made possible through the support of FNX, First Nations Experience.
Native Ground. I'm Bella of the Assiniboine Sioux and Manda Nation.
And I'm Daniel Herrera of the Miwok Nation. Welcome to this original series.
Today's show is dedicated to our coverage of the 2013 Sundance Film Festival.
The all-Native Ground reporters and crew spent 10 days in Park City, Utah, where the festival has been held since 1981.
It was founded in 1978 by Sterling Van Wagenen, John Earl, and Sirens Hampton Catania, with Robert Redford leading the charge as the chairperson of this event.
It was officially called the Sundance Film Festival in 1984 and is considered to be one of the largest and most prestigious independent film festivals in the world.
Let's go now to Braunwyn Walsh, where she interviewed actors from the red carpet premiere of A.C.O.D.
Who did you initially have in mind for the script?
I always wanted Adam Scott to play the lead. I'm a big Adam Scott fan, so I got my wish. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's in every single frame of the movie, so I hope people like him.
What drew you to the role?
I loved the writing. I thought it was funny and smart, and the character is pretty self-involved. And I liked the fact that Adam Scott was going to do it too.
What is it like working with Amy Poehler? Have you worked with her before?
No, I never have. She's great. She's sweet and funny and just great. She's great.
So what do you hope your audience takes from this film?
Stomachache from laughing, that would be good.
What advice do you have for people who want to be in your shoes?
Who want to be actors? It's something I believe. I believe that if you're meant to do this, you will find your way, and that there's room for everybody. It sometimes seems like it's incredibly crowded, but there's room for everybody. If you're meant to do it, you will find a way.
I play a girl who's kind of a screw-up.
Could you personally relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had my moments. Everyone has to go through not always doing the right thing or making the right judgments in order to figure out how to make better choices.
What advice would you give?
Work hard, study, and make as many movies with your friends as humanly possible. So practice, write, direct. I think we need more female writers and directors.
Is this your first time at Sundance?
It is. It is indeed.
How are you enjoying it so far?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's such a weird environment.
What drew you to the role?
I love this script. You know, it was just kind of a chance to play something I hadn't played before.
What do you think's unique about your role?
I mean, I think to see somebody that's this positive and optimistic and not really dumb, it's pretty unique.
I don't know why Stu hired me for this, but I'm really glad he did.
Yeah, we are too. We can't wait to see your film.
Oh,
what drew you to the role yourself?
It was just a hilarious script, so I really, really wanted to do it, and luckily they wanted me to, so... Still don't know why. Again, I'm so glad they did.
And you work with Amy Poehler with Parks and Rec and everything.
She's just a really, really easy person to work with, and she's a really just a lovely, kind of open, friendly person. So we became friends, and I just, wish every job was with her. She's the best.
What advice would you give to youth trying to, work it in the industry?
The advice I usually give is just do not stop. Just keep doing it. And the odds are in your favor. You'll just, as long as you stick around, because most people give up and leave, just stick around and keep at it.
How are you enjoying Sundance?
I'm really enjoying it. I've been here a couple times before, but never with something like this, with such a great cast and a special project. And I love it here when I get here. It's really weird and fun.
Tell us what it's like working with Adam Scott, on and off set.
On set, it's a dream. Off set, it's a nightmare. It's a total nightmare. No, he's the greatest. I mean, I think he's one of the finest actors.
What they don't talk about when they talk about love is a film that explores the odds of love and deception among the blind, the deaf, and the unlucky sighted people at a high school for the visually impaired.
Here's Maddy Etiz. Maddy was able to interview the director Mouly Surya of this first ever Indonesian language-based narrative feature film to be featured at the Sundance Film Festival.
So what was your inspiration behind this script? My inspiration was at that time, a couple of years ago, I met again with my relative that I haven't seen for a while, and she's actually a visually impaired. And at that time, she updated her Facebook status on her mobile phone, and that kind of amazed me. At that time, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing if someone is making a film out of this visually impaired community, and how they deal with life, and just their everyday life, instead of putting them in a zero to hero position where everybody is going to pity them, and it's just treating them as a human being. And I started with that idea.
Why the title? Tell us a little bit about the title, because it's a long title.
Yeah. It's pretty long. I think it's the longest title in Sundance right now. And actually, it came from a book. It's actually from an American author, from Raymond Carver. He has a book titled What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. Even though the film has nothing to do with the book, but I just want to pick up that expression and twist it around.
Tell us a little bit about the film industry in Indonesia. How is it different from maybe the film industry here in America?
We don't have any distributors, so the food chain is kind of missing one link there. So as a filmmaker, as a producer of the film, you will have to bring your own film. You have to make your own copies and go straight to the cinemas. It's still growing.
How does it feel to have the honor of being the first Indonesian film accepted into the Sundance Film Festival?
I don't know. I mean, I still couldn't believe it. And maybe they missed one title or something like that during those years. Maybe it's not the first time, because I don't know. It feels weird to say that. It's actually quite an honor. I mean, like I'm quite. How do I say that? I'm still amazed with that fact. It's a high school movie about young love, about adolescent love, but it is set in the school for the visually impaired. So most of the main characters are visually impaired, are blind, or has low vision, and one is actually a hearing impaired, so he's deaf and mute. We always say that love is blind, that love at first sight, and it's kind of talking about that. How do blind people have a love at first sight if they don't have that side? So it's probably different for them. So maybe they fall in love with a touch instead of with someone who is beautiful or something like that. And what is beautiful to them? I think it's playing with that themes. Young love tends to be more superficial than adult love, right? And I think I'm kind of playing with that. Yeah, and how do a deaf boy actually communicate with her blind girlfriend? So it's something like that, yeah.
The history of the Eagles presents vivid footage from the band's earliest days of chartered jets and some lingering resentments.
Most of History of the Eagles is rich in detail and a reflection on the rock and roll era that they dominated.
Braunwyn had the chance to interview with the director and producer of the film.
She even had a few moments with Timothy Schmit and Don Henley.
This is one of the great rock and roll stories of all time. The young scuffling kids come to great fame and then break up at the moment of their greatest fame. I mean, they have the best-selling album, I think, in the 20th century. The great thing about this one was that the Eagles had saved all this fantastic material that nobody had seen before. Footage shot by some of the best people in the world at the height of their powers. Intimate, Super 8 film of sort of backstage parties, all of that.
What is it like working with Alison on the film?
Look, Alison's a genius, and she's particularly great with putting together lots of archival footage in a different way, and really great working with music. So it was kind of like I threw out the bats and balls, and she hit it out of the park. There's something special in seeing the early steps of the Eagles as they're coming out.
So what's it like creating such a legendary film?
It's been really exciting and a lot of fun. It's been a great journey. Amazing footage that we had to work with, and an amazing story and amazing music, as we know. So,
when did you first decide that I'm going to be a musician? I'm going to make it big?
I decided to be on stage probably when I was in early grade school. And I was singing and playing different instruments, and I tap danced and all that stuff. And then early high school I started strumming instruments and singing more, getting a little more into it, and then I realized that it was a lot of fun, and that people looked at you different after. When you first get heard on the radio, people start looking at you different. It's not that you're any different, but I guess not everybody gets on the radio. And that happened to me when I was 18. So that was very cool. And I was from Sacramento at the time.
Really? We're from Sacramento as well.
I used to know Dennis Banks, and I went to a Sundance years ago with my wife in the 80s through him.
How do you hope the youth will,
There's about 3 generations that come to our shows now. Parents, a lot of people say, I grew up with your music, and then they bring in their kids. So it's pretty great. I mean, I'm 65 years old. I would have never thought when I was in my 20s that I would be, standing here right now doing this kind of thing and being able to sell out arenas, and it's pretty cool.
What made you choose the directors, Alex and Alison?
Their track record. I mean, he's a highly respected, award-winning director, and he hasn't done this kind of thing. We didn't want somebody who'd done a bunch of music documentaries. We wanted somebody who'd done more hard-hitting stuff. He did Taxi to the Dark Side. He did Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room. And we were very impressed with his work.
What was going on in your life during the transition from Desperado to life in the fast lane?
Being wildly successful in a rock and roll band, and being in the public eye was a big change for us, growing up in public, so to speak.
What's next?
More of the same, I guess. We're going to do a tour based on this documentary. We're going to do a History of the Eagles tour, which will begin probably in June and go for a couple of years all around the world, and then that may be enough. Who knows?
Mr. is a smart yet brash 8th grader at a public school in New York.
He lives in a horrible tenement project with his drug-addicted mother, who has for some reason taken in a young Korean boy named Pete.
Mr. gets bullied, unfairly treated, and is constantly beaten down in his neighborhood. Then his mother goes missing, leaving him and Pete alone in their dingy apartment with no money and very little food during a blazing hot summer.
But what Mr. really wants to do is act. Mr.'s dream is to make a local audition for a television series that will then take him out of his personal hell and into fame and fortune in Beverly Hills.
Here's Coley Kohler at the red carpet premiere of The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete.
So what was the inspiration for this awesome film?
The inspiration was the economic conditions. Like, I wrote it in 2009, 2010, and during that time you were hearing a lot about Wall Street struggling and the middle class struggling, but I wanted to write a story about a class that seems to always struggle. And that was kind of a working class, project housing, the people, I grew up in the projects in Milwaukee. I wanted to tell a story about kids from those projects who don't necessarily get a chance at Wall Street. So whatever's happening on Wall Street has nothing to do with what's happening to them, because it doesn't matter who's the president or what's happening on Wall Street or what the economic conditions are. There's always people who struggle. That's the story I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell a story about those guys and how they can come out of it by never giving up.
So how did you go from living in the projects to being here at Sundance?
I had a dream. There was something I wanted to pursue, and I just pursued it. I never gave up. I really believed in my heart that I could be a great screenwriter, and I still believe I can be that. And so that's what I do. I work on it every day. And I believe that if you work at something that you really want, that nothing can stop you. So I'm here just because of my diligence. And, with the blessing of George Tillman, he who found the script and liked the script. So, it takes some help, but it's all about not giving up. So that's what got me here, the fact that I won't give up.
Would you give any advice for youth who want to be like you and get out of what they used to be?
Yeah, I do have advice. My advice would be, do not be afraid to get rid of the people in your life who are speed bumps. There's going to be people who don't see your vision and your dream. It may be hard to get away from those people, but you have to do it in order to better yourself. Not everybody's going to share your dream. So, with that said, be ready to let certain people go if you have to in order to get where you want to be.
You're 13, right?
I'm 13.
Awesome. It said that you were a hidden diamond in the rough. How does it feel to be so accomplished already?
It feels good. I never thought that I would ever get this far, but I have faith. My parents have faith in me, and I'm glad I made it this far. So, yeah, it's fun.
Who inspired you, or what inspired you to become an actor?
Will Smith. And his son in The Pursuit of Happiness. It overwhelmed me to know that something like that could take an effect on you. And I asked my dad that I wanted to do it. I asked him, and he said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And from that day on, it was a roller coaster, an emotional ride that I thought I would never be on. But that's what compelled me to start acting.
Can you relate to your character at all?
Yes, we have many things in common. We do live in the hood, I'll say that. And there are definitely emotional points in both the characters, and we do love to act.
What's your role in this movie?
In this film, I play a character named Dipstick. And Dipstick is, I'll say, the villain of the film. These two kids you're going to grow to love, and you're going to want to watch their journey and root them on. And I'm the character that's just bringing them down the whole film. So, I'm a kid that's doesn't have the means to be the popular kid. So I'll say I'll use my popular, my mean self to be popular by bullying little kids or things like that. And we all, you had that kid growing up around, and I just so happened to be him this time around. But it was fun, though.
How did you begin your career? Didn't you begin dancing?
I did begin dancing. Yes, I did. How'd you know that? No, but I began dancing. I was working all throughout the entertainment industry, dancing, rapping, trying to just do everything. But acting really was my calling, and I'm so happy to have been given an opportunity to work on projects like Mr. and Pete, because you don't see projects like this anymore. And to be able, 10 years later, to still get a great project like this is a blessing.
So what is it like making the score for a movie?
Oh, it's hard work, painful, glorious, ecstasy. I mean, it's everything. It's what I do. It's what I love. You have to have a great relationship with your director, because that's the vision. He's the captain of the ship.
You worked with Robert Redford and made films like A River Runs Through It. How is that working with Robert Redford?
Well, that's fabulous. I mean, he's such a great artist and a great gentleman, and so talented in every way. And I've done, I think, 4 films with him, and they've all been just great experiences. I learned a lot.
Some of your favorite works that you've created?
I find it's always the most recent. That's the one I have the love affair with, the one I'm currently working on. Which is a film called 42, which will be coming out in a couple of months. It's Jackie Robinson's story. Crash, I think, was a big favorite of mine in the past. And A River Runs Through It, actually, as well, back in the beginning of my career.
How old are you?
I am 10 years old.
And you began acting when you were 2, right?
Yes, I began acting when I was 2 years old.
Awesome. What was your first role?
My first role was I was in a baby in influenza commercial.
Oh, cool. How is it like having such supportive parents?
My parents are amazing. They supported me so much, and I don't think I could have done this without them.
What do you hope to do in the future?
I hope to be work as hard as I can and be the best actor I can be, and I hope I can be a good director one day, like George told me.
Over 20 years after her testimony in front of the U.S. Senate Judicial Committee, Anita Hill received a standing ovation at the Sundance premiere of the documentary Anita, which is based on her personal story.
Miss Anita Hill is currently a professor of social policy, law, and women's studies at Brandeis University's Heller School for Social Policy and Management.
Anita is a documentary about her struggle and her testimony during the 1991 confirmation hearings of Justice Clarence Thomas to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Let's go to Braunwyn Walsh on the red carpet premiere with Anita Hill.
So how are you? Where are you from?
I am from Oklahoma. I grew up in Okmulgee County, the Creek Nation. And I am excited to be here, and I'm so excited to talk to your viewers.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you. Thank you for the courage to stand out and give our young women a voice.
I have been reading about problems on reservations, and the problem is within communities of us being able to speak out about our experience is, of course, something that I personally experienced in 1991 when there were individuals in the African American community who thought that I should have remained quiet. They thought that I would bring shame on the community. And over the years, what I've come to understand that our communities cannot be strong unless our women are strong, unless everyone has a voice. And so it's absolutely imperative that we give women an opportunity to talk about what we need to feel safe and secure and to be completely productive in our lives. lives. This is an issue that resonates, I think, with women across the board, across all spectrums, but especially, I think, with women who have identify ethnically and racially and want to be part of a community and be empowered within our communities.
What was your first reaction to Frida about this idea for the film?
Well, I had been approached by a number of filmmakers, and I had been a little hesitant because as much as I like talking to you now, today, I didn't really like the idea of having a camera all the time. No offense to the camera. But I knew it was important to be able to tell the story, and I wanted to participate with somebody who I thought would do a great job. And I'm very happy with the job she's done. I think it's marvelous. It tells the story in many ways from beginning to end and where we are. It takes us from 1991 to where we are with issues today.
As a woman, what was it like preparing yourself to come out in public?
You know, I'm very fortunate because at the time I had so many good friends who were supportive. I had a wonderful family who stood by me, and whatever the hardship was, they were going to support me. They were going to make sure that I never failed. And having that safety and security allowed me to move forward. I know some women don't have that, and some women are shunned because of what they do. If you can't find that support, there are now networks of women who are looking like you, who are thinking like you, and understand what you're going through, who are always able to help and support you. It may not be the people you're closest to, but there are women and men out there who are available to help you. Yeah, don't forget those guys.
Robert Rodriguez was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, USA.
At a very young age, he showed an interest in cartooning and filmmaking and devoted all of his time toward developing this art.
Finally, it paid off with Robert's very first feature film, which was made for a whopping $7,000 and which was first screened at the Sundance Film Festival in 1993.
Now, 20 years later, Sundance has opened their vaults to show their highly prized El Mariachi. And Braunwyn was there to capture an interview with Mr. Rodriguez.
What kind of movies are you interested in making?
Well, I've been making the same movie for 20 years. The first one was called El Mariachi, and then it was called Desperado, and then it was called Once Upon a Time Mexico, and then it was called Machete, and then now it's going to be called Machete 2. So it's the same movie over and over again. The guy walks into town, gets beat up, leaves town. But it's fun.
Wreak havoc on everyone.
And sometimes I throw in some kids' movies just to kind of like keep my kids happy. But
what first inspired you to start filming?
I just like making things. You know, I was a cartoonist. I love photography. I love music. And movies felt like a great playground to be able to include all my favorite hobbies in one. That's why I still do a lot of the jobs myself, because it's just so fun to bring a bunch of artists together, be really creative, capture something that you have. Like we're just doing Sin City right now, the next one, and all the actors are having a blast.
What number is that?
Sin City 2. And people are having so much fun because you get to play in a film noir world, but it's guerrilla filmmaking, yet it's really high-tech guerrilla filmmaking in 3D, so it feels like the same abandon we had on this very first film. We're still doing it that way on a bigger scale, but still with that same attitude and that same, like, let's try and make everything work with popsicle sticks and rubber bands. And it's very fun. It's very fun.
So where was this film shot?
It was shot in Acuña, Coahuila, Mexico. It's a little town where my friend Carlos was from, and that was why we got so much production value. I went down to his town on a summer break, and we borrowed the guns from the cops. We used his cousin's bus line. We used his other cousin's ranch, and we had all these props based on it. We wrote the script around all the stuff we had, and that's why we made it so inexpensively. And we had the production value of Mexico and the fact that he was from there. They let him do whatever he wanted, so he could run down the streets. And I'd go every summer. I would go make home movies with him there since we were in high school. He'd say, come to Mexico, go to my hometown. It's great. We can come there. We film a movie together. I'll be the star. I was like, okay, that seems like a good trade-off. You're the star of the movie. I get to go play in another land. And Mariachi was the filmed version of that, the definitive version of 6 or 7 other short movies we had done over our high school career. Movies were always in Spanish because we just wanted to keep that language going. And what that ended up doing is once El Mariachi became a success, I got known for going and discovering new Latin talent, creating Latin stars, creating Salma Hayek, Antonio Banderas, Danny Trejo, when nobody was hiring Latins in Hollywood at that time. So when I arrived, it was actually good timing to start creating a lot of change, to where 10 years later we made the first Sin City, and suddenly you have Rosario, Jessica Alba, Alexis Bledel, Benicio del Toro playing characters that aren't even Latin. So that was a big change in 10 years that we did, starting with El Mariachi Desperado, Dusk Till Dawn, building our own star system.
Thank you for joining us for our Sundance edition.
I'm Daniel Herrera of the Miwok Nation.
And I'm Belle Laundrie of the Cinepoint Sioux and Manda Nation.
And you are on native ground.
My name is Richard Jenkins, and I'm on, and you're on native ground.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Amy Poehler, and you're on native ground.
My name's Adam Scott. I'm on native ground.
Yes!
Hi, I'm Clark Duke, and I'm on native ground.
Hi, I'm Jessica Alba, and I'm on native ground.
My name is Mark Isham. Giving you a shout out to On Native Ground.
I am Ethan Dizon, and I am on native grounds.
I'm Anita Hill, and I'm on native ground.
My name is Skylan Brooks, and this is Native Ground.
I'm Michael Starrbury, and you're on native ground.
I'm Don Henley of the Eagles, and it's nice to be here on native ground.
I'm Robert Rodriguez, and I'm on native ground. That's very catchy.